I'm Ayla from Ashland High School Team Press, and
And I'm Jade Bromley from Ashland High School Team Press, and it's very nice to meet you. And your name is?
Thank you. My name is Mark Shapiro, and I'm with LAIKA, the animation studio in Portland.
well, we just have a few questions for you. So my first question is, the movies that Leica produces have such a unique style, and I was wondering what it was about Leica that drew you to the company.
That's a really good question. I think what drew me to the company was the creativity. Like, we have a group of artists, 475 people doing different things at the company, but everybody brings a certain artistic quality and presence, and it's really fun to be around that type of person for that many years. When you're working on a film for that many years, you want to really like the people you work with, and I'm really drawn to creativity, and I think our films are so unique, and every day doing something different, it kind of energizes you.
So on the lines of the uniqueness, I was, I'm a big fan of animation and of Leica Studios. I think that the artwork that's produced by the studio is so incredibly unique to each story, and I know that style of animation, I think for me, plays a big role in how the film is perceived. And I was wondering if for you and for other filmmakers that you know, if the style of animation is as important as the story.
Another really good question. I think style is really important. And in animation, the one thing we always talk about is when you're looking at a movie, why would you want it to be animated? You know, like, there has to be a reason for the animation. And beyond that, it's like, well, why would you make a movie in stop motion? Why would you make a movie in CG? Why would you make a movie in drawn animation? And our stories fit the style of animation. And even though we have artists that work in all forms of animation, we're a stop motion studio, and the style of our movie is really dictated by the story, which is directly connected to sort of the style, and it kind of that's kind of the uniqueness, the fusion of those two things.
So kind of going on the lines of the story, like that's what the main purpose of film is. So do you believe that, do you think that live action films or animated films do a better job at conveying that message?
I think that what's really important, like you said, the story is really important. And sometimes I see incredible stories in animation. Sometimes I see amazing stories in, with live action. And when those two come together, when you have a great story that is an animated story, it really works. Like, for instance, for Coraline, I can't imagine the movie being done live action, right? Because it's so fantastical. There's so many things that happen. Coraline's the character size and style of the character is it's an animated character, and it's a stop motion animated character. So I think that, and I've seen great examples of live action where style fits and everything, and as long as those elements are together, then the style is important. And I've seen it succeed with live action and with animation as well.
I'd like to look at my phone for a second because that's where I've written my questions. So, have you always been interested in stop motion, or was that like a discovery that happened through working or being gravitated towards Leica Studios?
Well, I initially I was interested in all kinds of animation. When I moved to Portland, I was living in Seattle before that. But when we moved to Portland, coincidentally, we happened to live across the street from Will Vinton, who was a famous stop motion animator, claymation. He's the one, sort of the godfather of claymation. And so I was sort of drawn to that style because it was like, wow, our neighbor is doing this, and he won an Oscar. That was really cool. Like, in our neighborhood, we always knew that was the family, that he's the one who won the Oscar. And so I think what I love about stop motion is it tells a different kind of story. And I remember, like, being in high school and drawn. I liked animated films, but I liked the stories, and I felt like the stories of stop motion were really sort of more. They lean towards the things I liked. I liked about animation. I liked the look. It was a little bit dark. The theme was dark. I loved Nightmare Before Christmas, one of my favorite stop motion films of all time, and Tim Burton and the music and the singing. And I was like, wow, I was really drawn to it. So I think stop motion was kind of what I gravitated to.
You have worked for a variety of companies such as Nike, and you've done a wide array of different jobs. So I was wondering, what was your favorite position and where?
That's a good question. For me, I mean, I don't know if you feel this way when you're starting to take a class like in high school and you're like, wow, I really love this class that you're in at the time. And I love what I'm doing right now. There's something so energizing about going to film festivals and talking about something I really love, like animation and movies, storytelling. Working with this incredible group of people was amazing. But I feel like every job that I've had, from my first job, internship even, to where I am now, has always been like a growing. It's always sort of the idea of marketing and things like that have grown with me. I grew up in a family where my dad was in advertising in Seattle, so I grew up analyzing commercials almost more than the TV shows that we would watch as a family. So commercials and things like that and storytelling was always integral in my development as a professional. But I love what I'm doing now, and hopefully that's the meaning of something you really like to do is what you love what you're doing for work, and you continue to kind of challenge yourself and grow in that role.
I'm interested about that, the fact that you work in like creating a brand and like promoting this studio. How much of like your personal passions and your personal opinions goes into like making people really want to watch these movies and making people care about the stories that you obviously care about?
You guys, I just want to tell you that these are all really great questions. I get interviewed a lot, and every one of them, the reason why I'm saying this, because it's if I wasn't excited about what I did, then it wouldn't translate into success, and not only individually but hopefully for the company, knock on wood. But it's like the brand building is an everyday thing. Like I literally will watch infomercials and I'll be like, wow, look at the way they're telling stories. Or I'll watch other movies, not just animated movies, but live action movies and plays and things like that, where you guys are in such an amazing environment where you have access to everything, every kind of media. And for me, it's you sort of pull passion from those things, and it's an everyday thing. It's not something you turn on or off. In this role in marketing or in brand building, it's 24/7. I'm constantly on, I'm on my phone Sunday afternoon, with our publicist, coming up with ideas for, something that we might be doing at an event, or talking to our advertising agency, and they get right back to me. It's because of, just the way you guys have grown up with this, with cell phones and everything. It's like your world is constant and immediate and right now. And if you're not passionate about what you do and not asking questions about how you can do things better, then, you need to figure out a way to bring that passion to what you do.
Just that I want to say that I really appreciate like that brand that comes with these movies. I mean, these are movies that like I've grown up with, and like The Box Trolls is like one of my favorite movies of all time, and like as a person who's so invested in a style and you see something, it's like music. And it's not really a question, but I just want to say that I appreciate that consistency of style and of quality of story. I think that it's really important.
And to that point, I was going to say, when you brought up music, because I'm sure you guys, I have a daughter, and anytime a song comes on, she turns up the volume. That happens to me when I see something like a great marketing. Like I'll even rewind. She's a high school student, so she would appreciate this. We're watching something, I think it's really good. I will literally rewind you can rewind the TV and be like, wow, watch how that happening, and watch how like that key moment in something, what happened. And it's, you're right, it's like you said, listening to music, it brings up that passion and something, that creative spark, and that's really cool. And it sounds like you guys are interested in what you're doing here, which is cool. You have another question? Follow up? Okay. You're plugged in. She's unplugged. Definitely good.
All right. So, not many people understand or really appreciate the process of stop motion animation. Has working with these people like made you appreciate the process more and made you wish people understood it a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a good question. The process is really kind of remarkable, and I've done talks here, even at ScienceWorks or even at the film festival, talking about how we make our films, one frame at a time, 24 frames a second, 300,000 camera clicks for a movie. And even people who don't understand how we make our films, we usually put like a little vignette at the end of each one of our movies that kind of shows the process. And I'm amazed. People will come up to me afterwards and go, wow, I thought that movie was made in computer. I had no idea that somebody was in there moving a puppet one frame at a time, or moving a car one frame at a time. And it does give you an appreciation for people, just to kind of bring knowledge about how the films are made, because it's a long, our animators will spend a week and only get maybe 1 second or 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds of animation. That's 24, 48, or 72 frames of animation in a week. So being able to tell people how the process works, how you get from point A to point B and everywhere in between, is a lot of fun. And it's something that I think when people see it, they're like, wow, that's really, the story works, the music works, and you did it in those increments. It's kind of mind-blowing.
I was doing some research and I was noticing all the different little parts of doing a stop motion. Like there's the modeler or the rigger or the people who design the clothing, or like the facial expressions, like every little tiny detail. And like I think that for me, like sometimes my favorite part of a character is like how they walk, or like that weird little thing they do with their eyebrow. And I was wondering, for you, what's your favorite thing, that little tiny piece of a character? Every single time you're like, okay, it's like the facial features or the hair, the way the clothes move, that is so distinct to stop motion.
I mean, all of those things you mentioned, and when they work in tandem, when they work in sequence together, it's a remarkable thing to watch. I love watching great animators, and you can see it in stop motion when you can see little like ticks or something that a person will do, like their mouth will move in a certain way or their body moves in a certain way. And animators, when they animate, they're not animating an action hero that's like, standard. They have armatures on the inside of the puppets that can enable them to move in all kinds of different ways. And animators spend a lot of their time observing people walking, observing the way people sit down, observing the way people interact. And like when you speak, you use more than just your voice. Your whole body's going into something. You're moving. And when an animator brings that to the stage, it's a way of evoking it's acting. You're literally working with puppets as your actors, and they watch, theater, they watch live theater, they'll watch, old documentary footage. They'll just go to, like, if we're on the road, we'll go to an airport 2 hours early, and they'll just watch people walk in an airport, just the way that they kind of interact, the way a person interacts with another person, and the way they play off of each other. And when you see the, like, two characters interacting on stage, where not just one is moving, but the other person is moving as well, the other puppet or whatever is moving as well, you feel like you're watching something that's really happening, and you are, and it's the imagination of the animator that's kind of bringing that to life. So I guess it's all those things together that are kind of exciting moments.
I do have more questions.
Okay.
That I have to look at because I have a terrible memory. So I think, for me, I always like to know like the favorites, and so if you had to choose, because I'm making you, what would your favorite LAIKA studio movie be?
I love the movie that we're currently working on. Is always my favorite. It's like the one you're doing is always your favorite. So it's just, again, it's like I mentioned during the Q&A today, like when you're taking a class at school, or when you're taking something that you just really love doing, a project that you're doing. For me, the Coraline as our first movie has a special place, because I got to LAIKA halfway through the filming of Coraline. So I kind of grew up with the studio with Coraline. I've been there almost 9 years. And it was I still get goosebumps when I hear the music. One of you mentioned kind of the idea of music, and I still get the feeling of, it's something we're seeing for the first time. I rewatch things. Because it was our first film, there's a certain feeling I have for that movie. It's probably my favorite, but I have elements of each film. I really love Kubo. I love the Box Trolls. Paranorman was an incredible film. All the films, and you have to have this sort of feeling. You have to love what you're doing. Hopefully, it makes the marketing and everything else authentic. It makes the storytelling that we're doing beyond the story. When we're excited about it, it makes that story authentic.
So when you were introducing the shorts, you said that the Ashland Film Festival was one of your favorites. Yeah. So what makes you love Ashland so much?
What makes me love Ashland is the creative environment. I mean, because this is a city or town unlike any other, because you have this incredible Shakespearean festival, which is world. I knew about this even living on the East Coast, you always know about the Ashland Shakespearean Festival. This film festival, I came here probably 12 years ago. I think it's 16 years. It's celebrating its 16th year. And I came here over a weekend, and the curation, the selection of films that they pick are independent. I love independent films. I love the kind of these American stories. And in this environment where people love, like when you're in line, people love to talk about film. Like you'll just be standing there with this complete stranger and you'll say, wow, what movie did you see? And there's something about Ashland. It's an incredibly friendly city. Even when I was parking my car today, someone's like, perfect. Like someone walking down the street. You wouldn't see that in New York. You don't see that in Park City at Sundance. It just has a different feel, the different vibe. And I think some of that comes from having a university right here. Some of it comes from having the Shakespearean Festival. Some of it comes from just the creativity in the air. You have a lot of great influence from California coming up, from Washington, all over Oregon. It's a confluence of a lot of really good things and a really cool, beautiful, small city environment.
So I really only have one last question that has nothing to do with Ashland, so I apologize for that. But animation is one of my most favorite things in the world. It's kind of my passion, and I was just wondering that for you, as an art style, what do you think makes it so different, and why is that special thing so important to like today's media and today's storytelling?
That's a good question. I think animation, what you're doing with animation is you're telling a story. You're telling your brain to communicate a way to either draw or create a puppet or something, and then animate something. You're telling, instead of just shooting somebody walking across the street, you actually have to build a puppet. You have to create the world around it, and then you have to animate the puppet walking across the street. So, or whatever you're doing, whatever you're animating. And I think that there's just something special about all of those elements coming together that makes it unique. So your question again was can you?
Oh, just like what makes animation as an art form different, and how that's important to like media and storytelling.
So I think there has to be a reason why, and I mentioned this earlier, why you're wanting to animate something, like why you're deciding to put it to animation. And when, and when for me, I love watching it when it's authentic and real. But one of the things too, I'll even watch like commercials on TV or other animation, and I'll see things even in like, especially with 3D, with computer CG animation, and characters kind of gliding instead of like feeling the weight of a character. There's a real art to having an animator, like when you're stepping, that sound of the step landing and not just kind of gliding, because really there's no weight to a character, right? And being able to see that, being able to see people create a work of art, it's like why would you prefer to paint a beautiful landscape? Like if you're looking out and seeing a mountain, you could take a picture of it with your phone, or you could spend weeks, painting something or drawing something. To me, there's something about the artistic side of it that makes it really special. Are we good?
Yeah. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you too. All right. Thank you.